All right, good morning. It's Wednesday, December 2nd, 9:32 a.m. I'm going to go over some news as the virus continues to destroy the world politically, socially, and economically. We'll start with yesterday's numbers. So the graphs are looking as worse as they've ever been. For yesterday, we had almost 600,000 new cases, almost 12,000 deaths. America at the top with 2,614 deaths. Italy second with almost 800. Brazil third, 700. UK fourth, 600. In terms of cases, America is testing a lot compared to other countries, which and India as well, which is why they have a lot more cases. Now, if all the other countries were to test around that same level, this number will be much, much higher. Also, keep in mind these are official numbers, and so the real numbers are way beyond the 66 million cases and 1,500,000 deaths. So today we have a lot of stuff to go in for, a lot of new information that's come out. We're going to start off from the 30th and move forward. So Dr. Scott Atlas has resigned as special advisor to President Donald Trump, a White House official said on Monday. Atlas has been sharply criticized by public health experts for providing Trump with misleading or incorrect information on SARS-2. He has repeatedly downplayed the importance of face masks, and this month said lockdowns have been an epic failure in stopping its spread. So we have a lot of people resigning, health ministers. They just see how bad it is and how they just can't really control it and just the pressure, and they resign. Or they're let go if they're too serious about it, as we saw this woman in Florida that was laid off because she would not manipulate the numbers. China has provided North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his family with an experimental SARS-2 vaccine, a U.S. analyst said on Tuesday, citing two unidentified Japanese intelligence sources. The sources are who knows who that is. Anything coming from China and North Korea, you have to be very careful. Samoa's two positive SARS-2 cases have been declared historical cases and not infectious. The sailor had the virus in May, and the Australian man based in August. So that is not good because did they spread it? Because if they did, then it's been spreading since way back then. It's just that the testing has not detected it. Vietnam reported its first local transmission of SARS-2 in nearly 3 months on Monday, with officials scrambling to prevent a wider outbreak in the country's most populous city. I think yesterday they restricted flights. After a Thanksgiving weekend when the number of people traveling through U.S. airports reached its highest since mid-March, a top government official said on Monday some Americans could begin receiving SARS-2 vaccinations before Christmas. There's a lot of talk right now. I think Mike Pence was talking about it yesterday, how they're trying to push out the vaccines as quickly as possible, possibly within the next 2 weeks in America. But I mean, we'll get to the vaccines later. The Director General of the World Health Organization has warned that spending time with friends and family at Christmas is not worth putting them or yourself at risk. Now, you can't see these guys. They don't know that they are doing a terrible job, as we already obviously know. You don't just tell people don't do this. You tell them why they can't do this. People in this country, people in this world do not understand what this virus can do, and so you can tell them all this, don't do this, don't do that, and they're not going to do it because they don't understand why they shouldn't do it. That's what I've been saying for a long time. There needs to be a revolutionary spread of information to bring people's awareness to this virus. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Colombia will keep its land and river borders closed until 16 January in an attempt to stem SARS-2 spread. Mexico is in bad shape as SARS-2 cases and deaths surge, according to the WHO. The country's death rally is now more than 105,500, and confirmed cases have passed 1.1 million. Two squirrels just ran across the street in front of all that traffic. They're safe. Public health experts believe it is likely to be significantly higher. Every time that I see something about Mexico, it always ends with, it is like the numbers are believed to be significantly higher. It's always in Mexico. Everywhere it's supposed to be significantly higher, not just Mexico. Australia has welcomed its first group of international students to arrive since the SARS-2 pandemic began, with more due to follow a charter flight carrying 63 students from mainland China. Of all places, it had to be China. Hong Kong, Japan, Vietnam, and Indonesia landed on Monday in the northern city of Darwin. The arrival comes amid growing tensions between Australia and China after a Chinese official this week posted a fake image on Twitter of an Australian soldier appearing to slit a child's throat. And unfortunately, that ended up becoming a meme. So that's, and I started seeing it around the internet, photoshopped and whatnot, and it's not good. Nearly 1.2 million people passed through U.S. airports Sunday, the largest number since the pandemic gripped the country in March, despite pleas from health experts for Americans to stay at home over Thanksgiving. Now again, I'll repeat myself, because it needs to be said. It needs to be drilled through everybody's heads. If you want people to follow social distancing, you need to give them an understanding of why they should do it. People do not know what this virus does, and so they could care less about social distancing. So you need to raise public awareness, and that is what the countries have failed to do. California's governor warns of drastic action as hospitals near crisis. Oh man, yeah. Here in LA, it's getting really bad in the hospitals. It's getting really bad, and I look at what my friends are doing, and they're just partying, no masks, huddled up close together. And at my job, people constantly putting their masks under their nose. Customers they keep their masks in their pockets, and it's a pain, have to see all this tomfoolery going around. Governor Newsom warns California's ICU beds could be full before Christmas. Already, 99% of California's residents are under a curfew that bans them from leaving their homes to gather or to go to non-essential businesses after 10 p.m. Yeah, my job gave us all a letter. So in case we get stopped with the police, we're on the way to our job or whatnot. Los Angeles County health leaders have gone even further, announcing a ban on all gatherings in public or at private homes that goes into effect on Monday. Now I need to know specifics, because I'm right next to the park. There's people all over the park. New York Governor Andrew M. Cuomo said the state will take a series of emergency actions as it faces a new nightmare of overwhelmed hospitals. It may be weeks before we know if Thanksgiving travel fed a virus surge. That's really ominous, because America right now is, under the boot of SARS-2, and we haven't even seen the Thanksgiving surge yet. So it's going to get really, really bad. I mean, it is, but it seems like only get worse. Prisons are SARS-2 hotbeds. When should inmates get the vaccine? Well, that's a tough question, because inmates are very susceptible to catching SARS-2, but at the same time, you don't want to give them experimental vaccines that we're not entirely sure of its effects. But due to time, they really have no other choice at this point but to just make them guinea pigs. Prison outbreaks are just so common. There's not really much you can do besides try a vaccine. Croatia's prime minister and his wife have tested positive for the virus. I think the last week it was his wife, and the prime minister isolated, but it seems now that he caught it also. CG report number 107. The recent U.S. hospital update. With more than 91,000 SARS-2 patients in their beds, U.S. hospitals are in danger of buckling beneath the weight of the pandemic and the ongoing needs of other sick people. A bed is a gift right now, said Craig, regional chair of Mayo Clinic Health System. I talked about the Mayo Clinic system a lot in the past. Now, people like to say this is just the flu, right? But it's such an easily picked apart argument if you just have a basic understanding of the pandemic. The flu cannot overwhelm the hospitals the way that this virus can. And yet people still use the argument. And I laugh whenever I see it, because it's so easy to pick apart. But yet, a lot of people are just not well informed. And when you tell them, oh, it's just the flu, they don't know what to say. That's a very serious issue and lack of education. We need more virus education. In Utah, some doctors acknowledge they are informally rationing care, a euphemism for providing some patients of a lower level of service than they should receive. In El Paso, Texas, the National Guard has been dispatched to handle the overwhelming number of SARS-2 corpses, many held in 10 refrigerated trailers outside the medical examiner's office. More challenging still is lacking doctors, nurses, respiratory technicians, and other staff needed to provide care as the pandemic places unprecedented demand on the entire nation simultaneously. I mean, I said before, this is a virus that requires 100% human participation. But people feel that they don't need to do anything. Some people feel that way. People were thinking that, oh, because I live in a rural area, or I live in an island, I don't have to worry about it. And they still get it. So they're being careless. Even Mayo, one of the most prestigious and well-resourced systems in U.S. medicine, is supplementing its Wisconsin staff with nurses from its hospitals in Arizona, Florida, and Minnesota, redeploying nurses from other parts of this hospital and hiring temporary travel nurses who sign on for short assignments. I thought I had the flu, Casa said. She suffered from fever, chills, and difficulty breathing, which has lingered for weeks, though she has recovered. Somebody was reaching up inside my ribcage and squeezing my lungs. Small family gatherings are thought to be a significant avenue of virus transmission in the current surge, but Casa didn't need the public health warnings until the virus struck three generations of her family. SARS-2 patients can linger for weeks, even months or more, complicating the effort to find space for the current endless surge of 6 people. Now, I'm pretty sure I said this many times before. I don't know if I said it on the videos. We have better treatment for SARS-2, but what good is the treatment if the hospitals are too overwhelmed to administer the treatment? Then it's nullified. We're still going to have a lot of deaths because people can't have access to a bed, and they're going to die in the parking lot. They're going to die in the waiting room. They're going to die on the way to the hospital, or they're just going to die at home. Part 2. On Orange floor, nurses attend to SARS-2 patients at least once an hour, and each nurse typically is responsible for at least 3 patients. In an 8-hour shift, nurses must don gowns, gloves, N95 masks, and face shield a minimum of 24 times, checking to ensure they are protected against the virus. After each visit, they carefully strip off the protection and dispose of it. Some nurses are working 12-hour shifts and overtime in a job in which they are holding patients' hands as they die and helping others grieve over lost loved ones. Mary Beth Pischer was filling in on the floor recently when another nurse asked her to sit with a dying SARS-2 patient. He had perhaps an hour to live. He had been given morphine to ease his discomfort. I just sat down and he just talked, she said. He talked about how he used to farm and how he had dairy cows, and after he sold the dairy cows, he had black Angus. After about 25 minutes, the patient took off the mask that provided him high-flow oxygen and soon passed away. Wonder why he took off the mask. Unless he just didn't care at that point, or he knew what was coming in a few seconds. With no visitors allowed, Pischer said she felt it was an honor to be able to sit with him and hear about his life. Otherwise, he would have been alone when he died. So this is what you have to be looking into, not dancing TikTok nurses. You need to be looking into what these medical staff are experiencing. And you're not going to learn anything watching them dance around on TikTok. CVG report number 108, SARS brain update. Traces of the virus have shown up in brain tissue, examined post-mortem, but scientists don't know exactly how the virus got there, much less how it might alter neurons' function. A new study based on SARS-2 autopsies provides some of the first clues. The virus may spread to the brain through the nose, where it can invade nerve endings deep in the nasal passages. If further tissue analysis is supportive, the findings should help explain how the virus reaches circuits in the brain that support perception, balance, and mental acuity. Yeah, man, I've heard a lot of people saying that they get memory loss, difficulty of speech. People who are about to die from it become unable to talk. Yeah, these brain things are serious. and they require much more study. Even now, again, it's a novel virus. We're still gonna have it'll still take many more months just to begin to understand this. So anybody that claims that it's nothing, that it doesn't do anything to you, that it's not that dangerous, well, I like to see their credentials because I like to see what kind of papers they wrote, because even the top experts are still saying that this is dangerous. We still don't understand it that well. In the paper, a research team based in Berlin produced the first image. Finally, something that doesn't come from China. Produced the first images of intact SARS-2 in the so-called nasopharynx, where the throat meets the nasal cavity, and where odor receptors and perceptual cells converge. The virus can enter the nervous system by exploiting the close vicinity of olfactory, mucosal, endothelial, and nervous tissue, including delicate olfactory and sensory nerve endings in the mucus layer of the nasopharynx. The authors include squirrels all over my car. Up to a third of people who fall ill from SARS-2 report at least one neurological deficit. See, this thing, I'm pretty sure that this virus, its main goal is to reach the brain. But it's just unknown exactly, like, what. There's just so many unknowns, we still don't know much about it at this point. Let's see, I got lost already. So they are enough to suggest that people with severe forms of the disease should show some evidence of infection in their central nervous systems. A new report studied tissue samples from 33 SARS-2 victims that passed away. The samples came from 4 areas of the brain and from the olfactory mucosa, the mucous membrane of the nasopharynx. The analysis found evidence of the virus in various parts of the brain and in the olfactory mucosa, where its concentration was highest. Deep in this layer, near nerve endings that project to the brain, the researchers found that SARS-2 signature spike protein, which it uses to attach to and infect cells. Taken together, the findings suggest that the virus is able to use the olfactory mucosa as a port of entry into the brain, said Dr. Hebner in a prepared statement. Yesterday's news. UK government wins vote on new tier restrictions for England. Prime Minister Boris Johnson suffers biggest Commons revolt since the election as MPs back new SARS-2 restrictions by 291 to 78. So we can always we can always refer back to Boris Johnson's Twitter, where he gives the 2 thumbs up back from the beginning of the year, and he said this is going to be a great year for Britain, and what a great year it has been. European countries were on Tuesday given a clear time frame for the start of their vaccination programs, after the EU's medicines regulator said it would decide by 29 December whether to grant emergency approval for the first SARS-2 jabs. AFP reports. France plans to prioritize the most fragile and exposed groups in early 2021, followed by a second campaign for the rest of the population between April and June, the President Emmanuel Macron announced. Germany has already said it is hoping to launch its immunization drive in the first quarter of 2021 and is preparing vaccination centers across the country. Brazil will give priority to the elderly, health workers, and indigenous people for vaccination against SARS-2, the health ministry said on yesterday, unveiling a 4-stage preliminary plan for national immunization. The ministry said in a statement that a final plan would depend on the vaccines that become available. So here's the issue. Well, what we are seeing here is probably officially known known to the public, the most widespread guinea pig experimentation ever seen in mankind, because this vaccine, even though it has 90% plus ratings, they're not showing us all the data, and we don't know exactly what they're basing that off of. And we've seen people who have taken the vaccine who are killing themselves and suffering from neurological problems and other side effects, and they're not talking about this. And so, I mean, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait, and I'm gonna see how the vaccine affects people firsthand. Maybe it's the type of vaccine that might show effects now. Maybe it might show effects years later. I don't know. But we are seeing the largest guinea pig group of experimentation ever seen, because these vaccines have not been proven to do anything. Surely they are still in their early trial phases. It doesn't matter how much they say that it's ready. Can't trust these vaccines. And besides that, the another issue is just the distribution of vaccines. If they don't transport these vaccines correctly under the right refrigeration, the vaccines are destroyed. And so there's just so much that can go wrong. Are the people even prepared? Are the governments even prepared to distribute it? We don't even know. Eswatini's Prime Minister, Ambrose Dlamini, who tested positive for SARS-2 2 weeks ago, has been transferred to a hospital in neighboring South Africa for further treatment, the tiny absolute monarchy's government said on Tuesday. Belgian police arrest 25 men, including MEP, as sex party breaks curfew. A Hungarian MEP in Viktor Orban's right-wing party spotted fleeing along a gutter to escape police raiding a sex party above a Brussels bar, has apologized for breaching Belgium's lockdown rules. Joseph Zager was one of about 20 people, mainly men, and including at least 2 EU diplomats, who attended a party held near the Grand Place on Friday evening. I really wonder how this came about, because these are the type of things that people in power just do. And unfortunately, this one time that these people got caught. So I really wonder what happened here. Lastminute.com to pay $7 million, I'm not sure what currency that is, in refunds for canceled holidays. The flight and hotel booking site has agreed to pay $7 million, or whatever that currency was, in refunds to more than 9,000 customers whose holidays were canceled because of SARS-2. After an investigation by the Competition and Markets Authority, Lastminute.com has given undertakings that will pay refunds as soon as possible and by 31st January at the latest. Turkey's SARS-2 death toll hits record for 9th consecutive day. Concerns in Ireland as shopping sprees follow SARS-2 lockdown. Ireland emerged for maximum SARS-2 restrictions on Tuesday, so they relieved them, prompting pre-dawn shopping sprees and appeals to the public to stay vigilant against infection. SARS-2 patients who receive cancer treatment that suppress their immune system may remain contagious and able to spread SARS-2 for 2 months or more, according to a study published on Tuesday. In the new study, researchers analyzed sputum and swab samples from 20 immunosuppressed cancer patients infected with the SARS-2. They found 3 were contagious for more than 3 weeks after their symptoms began, including one who remained contagious for 61 days. Keep in mind that the CDC is reducing isolation time for those who are infected. Keep that in mind. When we have people shedding for 61 days. Patient 0 in Germany, as Ms. Evely said, shed for a month almost. So between me and you, between me and the maybe 4 people that might watch this, if you know somebody that catches the virus, stay away from them. Worst case scenario, make sure that they wear a mask, don't take it off, and keep your distance, and just be very careful with these people. Because even though the CDC says that after 2 weeks they're good, what is it now, 10 days, 7 days? They could still be shedding it, and nobody would know. The 3 patients have received either a stem cell transplant or therapy with genetically engineered immune cells called CAR T cells within the previous 6 months. 2 of the 3 had developed severe SARS-2. None of them had antibodies to the virus. That's another mystery with this virus. There's a lot of people who are not developing antibodies to it. So if you know anybody who is receiving cancer treatment, consider keeping them isolated much longer. Pakistan has approved $150 million in funding to buy SARS-2 vaccines, initially to cover the most vulnerable 5% of the population, the de facto health minister said. The British government will make a one-off payment of $1,335 to pubs that cannot open due to SARS-2 restrictions. You see, in America, which is considered the richest nation, they cannot afford to give money relief to their people. I mean, back in the 60s, Martin Luther King told us a long time ago that how can a rich country give out starvation wages? How can the richest country in the world just ignore the majority of its poor? And we're 60 years later, nothing has changed. If anything, it's worse. Healthcare workers and others recommended for the first SARS-2 inoculations in the U.S. could start getting shots within 24 hours, or at most within 36 to 48 hours after the vaccine receives regulatory nod. Moncef Slaoui, chief advisor for the U.S. government's Operation Warp Speed vaccine program, said he hoped 20 million people will be immunized by the end of this year. Within 24 hours, maybe at most 36 to 48 hours from the approval, the vaccine can be in people's arms, Slaoui said at the Washington Post event. Now, if you didn't watch my last video where I gave a breakdown of Dr. Eva Lee's latest SARS-2 interview, give it a watch. She goes deep into vaccines, and it's just essential information that I highly recommend if you haven't watched it. 9 restaurants, bar, and nightclub owners began a fifth day of hunger strike on Tuesday outside Portugal's parliament in protest against SARS-2 restrictions. So I can understand people who are against the lockdown because their business is about to die, but that is at the fault of the government, not of their own. And so some of them lash out. They don't know what to do when they do things like this. The U.S. Transportation Department said it has made preparations to enable the immediate mass shipment of SARS-2 vaccines and completed all necessary regulatory measures. The Department of U.S. agencies has been coordinating with private sector companies which will carry vaccines from manufacturing facilities to distribution centers and inoculation points. It added it had established appropriate safety requirements for all potential hazards involved in shipping the vaccine, including standards for dry ice and lithium batteries used in cooling. I really hope they're correct. I really hope they took a good look at that, because that's very, very critical. So we're near the end now. Seizure report number 109. SARS-2 pounds, Los Angeles. And the Thanksgiving wave hasn't even started yet. Yesterday, Tuesday, December 1st, 2020, was the worst day thus far for the SARS-2 pandemic in Los Angeles County. Said County Health Director Barbara Ferr. However, it will likely not remain the worst day of the pandemic in Los Angeles County. That will be tomorrow, and the next day, and the next as cases, hospitalizations, and deaths increase. The numbers validate Ferr's grim words. Los Angeles County Department of Public Health on Tuesday announced the highest number of new SARS-2 cases that the county has ever experienced. Health officials, this is where I live, by the way. Health officials confirmed 7,593 new cases of SARS-2. The number of new SARS-2 cases blew past the previous high of 6,100 new cases seen last week. It signals that the virus is infecting more people at a faster rate than ever seen in LA County before, even as the county is delivering more tests than ever before. The daily test positivity rate today is almost 12%, up from 7% just 1 week ago. I can tell you, as a resident of Los Angeles, that people here just don't care. And this is what has resulted in the spike. In fact, we should be seeing the Halloween spike right now, partly. Because back in Halloween here, there were a lot of Halloween parties. I didn't go to one, just in case you're wondering. On Monday, Ferr and Fauci both warned of a surge on top of a surge, meaning that the country's already record number of cases will be joined by a wave of infections caused by Thanksgiving activities. So this is going to get really bad around the end of December, early January, because that's when we'll start seeing the Thanksgiving numbers. If the county is seeing, and it's winter too, that's the other thing. You see, Wuhan, people were dropping on the floor with seizures all over the place, just piles of dead bodies all over the streets. Late January, February? I am really curious to see what's going to happen to the world around that same time. If the county, so anyways, also on Monday, California Governor Gavin Newsom warned that if the surge continued unabated, the state would take much more dramatic, arguably drastic action. So they've been hinting they're gonna get back to the lockdown we had in the very beginning. And based upon the way things are going here in Los Angeles, it seems to be inevitable at this point. If these trends continue, said the governor, the potential for a stay-at-home order for those areas in the purple, more in line with the stay-at-home order that folks were familiar with at the beginning of the year. To put the numbers in some sort of perspective, the county of Los Angeles has reported more daily infections than the entire state of California was reporting daily at the beginning of November. Siege report number 110. Over 100 workers infected in just one New Jersey hospital. Officials won't give the details. New Jersey Advanced Media reported Monday that the 318-bed hospital in northern Ocean County suffered the outbreak in late November, forcing operator Hackensack Meridian Health to ask employees of other facilities in its network to fill shifts at Ocean Medical Center. A November 20 memo to staff posted on the hospital's group's website claimed that hospital workers may have spread the virus. More than 100 of our team members were out of work at one hospital after several of our colleagues socialized outside the work and then unknowingly exposed both other colleagues and patients to SARS-2, the memo said. The spokesman for Hackensack Meridian would not say how the hospital determined the outbreak had been caused by employees socializing. State health officials acknowledged the outbreak Monday during Governor Phil Murphy's coronavirus press briefing in Trenton, but did not provide details. A spokeswoman for the Department of Health referred a request for comment to the Ocean County Health Department, which did not respond to a message seeking comment. The employees who spoke on condition of anonymity out of fear of retribution, blame lax visitation rules and mask-wearing enforcement for the outbreak. That's the issue with this country. They don't enforce the rules. They don't even monitor them. I don't think it's really fair when there's been negligence by the hospital itself, said one worker. And I think this is we got 2 more reports and we're done. CG report number 111. America loses, Corona Chan wins. Holiday season presents a grim reckoning. The United States has reached an appalling milestone. More than 1 million new SARS-2 cases every week. Hospitals in some states are full to bursting. The number of deaths is rising and seems on track to easily surpass the 2,200-day average in the spring, when the pandemic was concentrated in the New York metropolitan area. Our failure to protect ourselves has caught up to us. The nation now must endure a critical period of transition, one that threatens to last for far too long, as we set aside justifiable optimism about next spring and confront the dark winter ahead. Some epidemiologists predict that the death toll by March could be close to twice the 250,000 figure that the nation surpassed only last week. The next 3 months are going to be just horrible, said Dr. Ashish Jha, Dean of Brown University School of Public Health, and one of the dozen experts interviewed by the New York Times about the near future. Even as the CDC urged Americans to avoid holiday travel and many health officials asked families to cancel big gatherings, more than 6 million Americans took flights during Thanksgiving week, which is about 40% of last year's air traffic. So at least most people kind of listened when it came to flights. The regions of the country now among those hit hardest by the virus, Midwestern and Mountain states and rural counties, including in the Dakotas, Iowa, Nebraska, and Wyoming, are the ones that voted heavily for Mr. Trump in the recent election. What a surprise. What a surprise that is. The governors of Iowa and New Hampshire issued mask mandates for the first time in mid-November. The governor of Kansas, North Carolina, and Hawaii straightening theirs. But average Americans are sharply divided over masks. Again, not only was there no type of mass revolutionary information campaign to keep Americans educated, there was a massive disinformation campaign that made people think that it was a hoax, that the masks don't work, that the masks wearing means you're a fool. Pandemic did this. Pandemic 2 did this. We have a lot of grifters like Andrew Kaufman saying that viruses don't exist. People are lost. CG report number 112. U.S. continued. Very dark couple of weeks. Morgues and hospitals overflow. Part 1 of 2. Nearly 37,000 Americans died of SARS-2 in November, the most in any month since the dark early days of the pandemic, engulfing families in grief, filling newspaper obituary pages, and testing the capacity of morgues, funeral homes, and hospitals. Amid the resurgence, states have begun reopening field hospitals to handle an influx of patients that is pushing healthcare systems and their workers to the breaking point. Hospitals are bringing in mobile morgues, and funerals are being live streamed or performed as drive-by affairs. Health officials fear the crisis will be even worse in coming weeks after many Americans ignored pleas to stay home over Thanksgiving and avoid people who don't live with them. I have no doubt that we're going to see a climbing death toll, and that's a horrific and tragic place to be, said Josh Michaud, the Associate Director of Global Health Policy at the Kaiser Family Foundation. It's going to be a very dark couple of weeks. The fast deterioration situation is particularly frustrating because the vaccine distribution could begin within weeks, McCall said. At Mercy Hospital, Springfield, in Missouri, a mobile morgue that was acquired in 2011 after a tornado ripped through nearby Joplin and killed about 160 people, has been put into use again. At the Bellefontaine Cemetery in St. Louis, burials are up to about one-third this year compared with last year, and the cremated remains of about 20 people are sitting in storage while their families wait for a safer time to hold memorial services. The dead include a husband and wife in their 80s who succumbed to SARS-2 5 days apart. You want to be safe at the gravesite, so you don't have another graveside service for another family member, said Richard Lay, Bellefontaine Cemetery's vice president. Part 2. The Star Tribune in Minneapolis-St. Paul saw a 40% increase in the number of pages dedicated to paid obituaries in November, largely because of SARS-2, a spokesman said. By November 29th, the newspaper had 11 pages of obituaries, compared to about half that many on a typical Sunday. Rhode Island opened 2 field hospitals with more than 900 beds combined. The state's regular hospitals reached their SARS-2 capacity on Monday. New York City, the epicenter of the U.S. outbreak early in the year, reopened a field hospital last week on Staten Island. Wisconsin has a field hospital in West Allis ready to take overflow patients. A Nevada hospital has added hospital bed capacity in an adjacent parking garage. Hospitals all around the country are worried on a day-to-day basis about their capacity, and we're not really even into winter season, and we haven't even seen the impact of Thanksgiving travel and Thanksgiving gatherings, said Dr. Ramesh Adlaha, a senior scholar at the Hockman Center of Health Security. The number of hospitals is just one concern. Many hospitals are scrambling to find enough staff to care for patients as the virus surges almost everywhere at once, Adlaha said. You can't just say we'll have doctors and nurses from the other states come because these other states are also dealing with SARS-2 patients, he said. The U.S. is seeing an average of more than 160,000 new cases per day and almost 1,470 deaths, equal to what the country was witnessing in mid-May. State and local officials are also responding with shutdowns, curfews, quarantines, and mask mandates. Like I told you before, even though we understand the treatments a little better now, what good are the treatments if the hospitals are too overwhelmed to administer the treatments? They don't do any good. So thank you for watching. I guess give a like, subscribe, or share. Leave a comment, and I'll compile some more news, and I'll see you next time.